Good morning, good people of St. Camillus. I hope you're doing well today. I hope you're hanging in there with this coronavirus. It certainly is taking a long time to resolve. Let's continue to be careful even as the states begin to open up a bit. Let's continue to take those precautions we need to take care of each other, to take care of ourselves and our families, and as well as the rest. In today's first reading for Mass, we hear these words of Paul as he preaches in Antioch in Pisidia. The inhabitants of Jerusalem and their leaders failed to recognize who Jesus was, and by condemning him to death, fulfilled the oracles of the prophets that are read Sabbath after Sabbath. Such a sad reminder. The people of Jesus' time, not everyone, but so many of the leaders, failed to recognize who Jesus was. Maybe that's something that we still do in our own day. We fail to recognize who Jesus is as he continues to walk in our midst. I've always been haunted by a tale told by a Jesuit, Anthony de Mello. It's a little parable. It's a story that has a message for us, and it's called Look into His Eyes. And the parable goes as follows. The commander of the occupation troops said to the mayor of the mountain village, "We know you're hiding a traitor. Unless you give him up to us, we shall harass you and your people by every means in our power." Now, the village was indeed hiding a man who seemed good and innocent, a man who was loved by all. But what could the mayor do now that the welfare of the village was at stake? Days of discussions in the village council led to no conclusion. So the mayor finally took the matter up with the priest. Priest and mayor spent a whole night searching the scriptures, and finally they came up with a text that said, "It is better that one man die to save the nation." So the mayor handed over the innocent man, whose screams echoed throughout the village as he was tortured and put to death. 20 years later, a prophet came to that village and went right up to the mayor and said, "How could you have done this? That man was sent by God to be the savior of this country, and you handed him over to be tortured and killed." But where did I go wrong?" pleaded the mayor. "The priest and I looked at the scriptures and did what they commanded." "That's where you went wrong," said the prophet. "You looked at the scriptures. You should also have looked into his eyes." Today in the gospel, Jesus says to Philip, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Let's try each day in our lives to look into his eyes, to look into the eyes of Jesus, who is still in our midst, who still is found among us, in our brothers and our sisters, sometimes even in the most poor and rejected and marginalized. Let's try to look in his eyes, for he is still in our midst, so that we don't continue to condemn him to death, as those did at the time of Jesus, as the mayor and the priest of that mountain village did as well. God bless you, God keep you safe, and may the Christ, the risen Christ who dwells among us, may he be found by each one of us, loved and served. God bless.